I'm Lachlan from ACE Training, and this is part 5 of our 5-part video series providing quick solutions to common data problems. In this last video, we're looking at the topic of formula auditing, because often we work in files that weren't made by us and come across formulas that we're not sure what they do, or maybe we were worried that if we do something, it might break some formula somewhere. And so I want to give you some tools to help understand and investigate your formulas. And I've got an example of one of my hobbies here. I enjoy a good cryptic crossword. And in this file, when I type in the right answer to a question, it's set up with conditional formatting to go green and for the answer to be crossed out. But there's a bit of wizardry of formulas happening in the background that might be confusing at first. Over on the Answers tab, I've got some formulas running. And if you ever want to see where the formulas are on the page, to be careful not to type over a formula, you can press this option here called Show Formulas, and it will reveal them. And you'll see that everywhere there was an answer, the formula is now showing. You can also, on the Home tab, go Find and Select the formulas, and it will find and select them for you on the sheet as well. So I know that all of these are formulas, but what are they doing? What is affected? Let me take an example of this next to the answer oil rig. This is 1. And this one is marking whether it's correct or not. But what things depend upon that cell? And what does this cell depend on? What precedes it? Well, on this Formulas tab, under this Formula Auditing section, there are these amazing abilities to trace what comes before and after a formula, to look upstream and downstream. So if I take this example and I look upstream, what things precede it? Well, I can see clearly that this formula uses this oil rig cell, the answer, and also this symbol tells me that it's using something off this sheet, away from the sheet. If I now remove the arrows and I look downstream, I can see that this total for the number of across clues that are correct is affected. But also, if I keep on looking downstream, I can see that the grand total, the number of overall clues that are correct, is affected. And then finally, the percentage correct. Yeah, I can look all the way downstream. So I know that if I change this formula in any way, all 3 of those cells will be affected as well as the formula. Very useful. The next thing to get your head around is how you can evaluate and step through a formula to help you understand it. So if I come to this formula here, I can see it up in the bar, which is useful. But if I want to walk through it, I can actually press this Evaluate button. What this does is it allows me to resolve the formula step by step and see what it's doing until eventually maybe it encounters an error or something similar. And so I can see that this is the if function. And within that, the first ingredient of the if function, it's resolving left to right. Yeah, and the first thing that needs to resolve is this concat function. And the concat function joins things together. And it's joining on the crossword sheet certain cells. Now, if I tap this Evaluate button, I can see what that results in. You see, it's joining together them to form the word oil rig, O-I-L-R-I-G. And this if function is testing if that word is equal to C6. What is C6? Well, I go Evaluate, and it reveals that is the answer, oil rig. Now it is testing if that is true. Is it true that those letters, O-I-L-R-I-G, equal oil rig? It is true. And now it's going to produce one of 2 answers depending on if that was true. A 1 if it was true, and a 0 if it was false. I press it one final time, and there is the 1. Amazing. I also find it useful. Sometimes you might come across functions that you don't know what they do or what they're for. And I often come to this Formulas tab and look in the function library. And if I take an example of this if function, if I just click before this if, you'll see that the word if is actually clickable. If I tap on it, it opens up this help menu here that gives me a good description of what this formula is for. Yep. It helps me understand the syntax of it. What are the ingredients? And it gives me an example I can walk through. That's amazing. So here you can see, for example, that it says it results in two things. The first, if it is true, and the second, if it is false. Then there's this syntax area that explains the different things, the logical test, the value of true, and the value of false. Sometimes you might want something that you can't click on, like I can't click on this concat one to check it. And so I can either use the search bar over here, concat, to understand it, or I can come up to the function library and I can find it here. And when I find it here, I can again insert that formula and I can choose help on this function. Help on this function. And that will open up the full page with information about how that formula runs. Amazing. So this is a recap. It's important to know how to show and find the formulas on a sheet. It's important to be able to understand what is upstream and downstream, and then to be able to walk through a formula and maybe get a definition for what a function is and therefore what it might be doing. I hope that has been helpful to you, seeing an example of investigating a formula. And if that interests you, I highly recommend coming along to our Excel time-saving features class where we practice formula auditing. Otherwise, check out ace.co.nz to see our other courses.